Let me ask you something. What does WWE do when they finally build a legitimate monster? A guy who looks like he was carved out of marble by the gods of professional wrestling themselves. A guy whose bloodline practically bleeds this business. A guy who was spearing people so hard the camera shook, running through rosters like they were made of tissue paper, and making the entire locker room look like amateurs. What does WWE do with that guy? Apparently, they let him walk. Or worse, they pushed him out the door. Welcome back to WrestleScope. I'm about to tell you something today that is going to make your blood boil. And before this video is over, you are going to have questions. And trust me, WWE does not want you asking them. So if you're a real wrestling fan, if you actually care about the future of this business, you need to stay locked in until the very last second of this video. Because the Bron Breakker situation is not just about one superstar. It is about a systemic problem inside WWE that keeps destroying its own future over and over again. And it needs to be called out. Right now. Before we get into the ugly details, let's talk about what WWE had in their hands with Bron Breakker, because some of you newer fans might not fully understand just how rare this man was. Bron Breakker is the son of Rick Steiner, the nephew of Scott Steiner. He grew up inside professional wrestling. He didn't stumble into this business looking for fame. Wrestling is literally in his DNA. And when he debuted on NXT back in 2021, the reaction from the wrestling world was unanimous. This kid is the real deal. And he proved it almost immediately. He became a two-time NXT champion. He had the look, he had the athleticism, he was doing things in that ring that men his size have absolutely no business doing. His spear alone was being called one of the most devastating finishers in all of WWE. He was legitimately must-see television every single time he stepped through that curtain. When he got called up to the main roster, the expectation was simple. Strap a rocket to this man and let him fly. This was supposed to be WWE's next great monster heel, the guy who would terrorize SmackDown or Raw for the next decade, the kind of generational talent that companies like WWE are desperately starving for in an era where creating new stars has become harder than ever. So tell me something. Tell me how in the world we ended up here. Here is where things get uncomfortable, because this is where WWE has to look itself in the mirror. When Bron Breakker came to the main roster, there was a window. A golden, fragile, fleeting window where everything needed to be handled perfectly. You had a generational athlete, you had a famous last name, you had a character that was working. All you had to do was protect him, build him properly, and let the audience fall in love with hating him or loving him, whichever direction you chose to take him. Instead, we watched Bron Breakker get stuck in the mud. The booking became inconsistent, the storytelling around him was scattered. One week he felt like the most dangerous man in WWE, the next week he was being used to make someone else look good with no reciprocal benefit to his own character. There was no long-term vision, no clearly defined destination, just reactive, week-to-week television that slowly but surely chipped away at the aura they spent 2 years building in NXT. And here's the thing that makes wrestling fans like you and me absolutely furious. This is not the first time WWE has done this, not even close. We've watched this exact pattern play out with talent after talent after talent. Get them hot, fail to capitalize, watch the moment pass, then scratch our heads wondering why nobody new is getting over. The fans were ready for Bron Breakker. The audience was there. The foundation was laid. But somewhere between creative meetings and television tapings, the ball got dropped. And once momentum dies in professional wrestling, it is one of the hardest things in the world to resurrect. Now here's where I need you to pay very close attention, because this is the part of the story that most channels are glossing over, and I think it is the most important piece of the puzzle. There came a point in Bron Breakker's WWE tenure where something shifted. You could feel it. The energy changed. The passion that once radiated off this man every time he hit that ring started to look different. Not worse necessarily. Bron is a professional and he always gives you something in that ring. But the electricity, that feeling that you are watching someone who is destined for the absolute top of this company, it started to flicker. And when talent starts to flicker, one of two things is happening. Either they are being personally dealt a bad hand creatively, or conversations behind the scenes have already started going sideways. In Bron Breakker's case, it was both.
Reports began circulating within the wrestling community that things were not exactly sunshine and roses between Bron and WWE management. Contract discussions were complicated, creative direction was a source of frustration. For a man who comes from a family that has seen every single side of this business, the highs, the lows, the politics, the promises, Bron Breakker is nobody's fool. He knows his value. He knows what he brings to the table. And if the people across that negotiating table couldn't see it as clearly as the fans did every single week, then why would he stay? And here is the unique twist that nobody else is really talking about openly on this platform right now. What if Bron Breakker leaving is not actually a failure on his part at all? What if this is Bron Breakker making the single smartest career move a professional wrestler can make in 2025 and beyond? What if WWE losing Bron Breakker is not the end of his story, but the beginning of the most interesting chapter yet? Because the wrestling landscape right now is not what it was 5 years ago. Let's think about this clearly for a second. AEW exists, and despite everything, Tony Khan is still writing checks and still looking for the kind of legitimate athletic monster that can compete with WWE's presentation on a physical level. Bron Breakker walking into AEW would be, and I mean this without any exaggeration whatsoever, a nuclear bomb going off in the professional wrestling world. The reaction alone would break the internet. But it doesn't stop there. New Japan Pro Wrestling has been aggressively pursuing Western talent. TNA has been on a quiet but legitimate creative resurgence. And with the way social media works today, an independent run, done correctly, could turn Bron Breakker into a bigger star than any television deal ever could. We have seen it happen. The business has changed. The ceiling for where a talent like him can go outside of WWE is higher now than it has ever been in the history of professional wrestling.
And here's the thing that should make every single WWE executive deeply uncomfortable as they watch this video right now. Bron Breakker is 27 years old. 27! He has not even entered his physical prime yet. He has decades of great professional wrestling left in that body. Whoever gets him next, and somebody will get him, is getting a future world champion, a future franchise player, a future Hall of Famer. WWE had him, and they let it slip through their fingers. I want to zoom out for a second because this video is not just about Bron Breakker. It is about a pattern that the wrestling community needs to stop tolerating and start confronting loudly. WWE has a star creation problem. And before anyone comes into the comments defending the company blindly, I say this as someone who loves professional wrestling and has watched WWE for years. The product can be great. The production is unmatched. The storytelling, when it's firing on all cylinders, is second to none in the industry. But they keep doing this. They keep finding diamonds and failing to polish them. They find the next big thing, give the audience a taste, let the momentum build naturally, and then nothing. Stagnation, creative confusion, lost opportunity. CM Punk talked about it. Sasha Banks walked out over it. Braun Strowman never reached the ceiling he should have. Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Hit Row, the list goes on and on and on. These are not small mistakes. These are massive, franchise-altering errors that compound over time and slowly but surely erode the audience's ability to believe in anyone new. And when you can't make new stars, when every important match eventually cycles back to the same handful of established names, you have a problem that money and production value cannot fix. Bron Breakker was supposed to be part of the solution. Instead, he became another chapter in the same book WWE keeps refusing to stop writing. So where does this leave us? What actually happens from this point forward? For WWE, the damage is real but not irreparable. They still have talent. They still have a product millions of people watch every week. But they need to look at what happened with Bron Breakker and do something radical. They need to learn from it. They need to identify the next Bron Breakker on that roster right now and commit to doing it differently. No more half measures, no more reactive booking. Build the star or step aside. For Bron Breakker, and this is what I genuinely believe with everything I know about this business, the future is bright, absurdly bright. The best thing that can happen to a talent of his caliber is landing somewhere that will use him correctly, showcase what he actually is capable of, and let him run. Wherever he lands, he will remind every single person who doubted this decision exactly why he was considered special in the first place. And for us, the fans, we keep watching. We keep paying attention. We keep holding these companies accountable. Because at the end of the day, we are the reason any of this exists. Our passion, our subscriptions, our ticket purchases, our social media engagement, that is the lifeblood of professional wrestling. And when a talent like Bron Breakker gets mishandled, we feel it too.
So we have every right to be angry, every right to ask the hard questions, every right to demand better. Bron Breakker is officially gone. And whether you think that's a mistake by WWE, a power move by Bron, or somewhere in between, one thing is undeniable. Professional wrestling just got a whole lot more interesting. This story is not over, not even close. And WrestleScope will be right here every step of the way, covering every twist, every turn, every shocking development as it unfolds. Now, I need something from you right now. If you watched this entire video, if you felt that frustration, if you agree that WWE dropped the ball, or even if you think I'm completely wrong, I need you to get into those comments right now and tell me where you think Bron Breakker lands next. AEW? New Japan? Does he go independent? Does he shock the world and somehow return to WWE on his own terms? Drop your hottest take below, because I read every single comment on this channel and this conversation needs to happen. If this video gave you something to think about, if it fired you up the way it fired me up making it, smash that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds and it helps this channel reach more real wrestling fans who deserve to hear the truth about what's happening in this industry. And if you are not yet subscribed to WrestleScope, what are you even doing? We cover professional wrestling the way it deserves to be covered. No fluff, no filler. Just real analysis, real passion, and the kind of content that actually respects your intelligence as a wrestling fan. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a single upload. Bron Breakker's next chapter is coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. WrestleScope out.